Hello my beloved friends, and welcome back to the Untold Stories. Now I know a lot of you use these videos to sleep, so before you drift off I thought it would be a crazy idea if everyone can leave a comment to let me know where you are listening from in the world. Also like and subscribe if you are enjoying the case. Right, let's get comfy and relax, and let's begin with story number 1. I was in a place packed with junk. Among all the clutter, I saw something glowing. As I moved closer, my body froze. A swirling vortex pulled me in. Inside the vortex, I saw a man, his eyes full of desperation. He was begging me for help, pleading for freedom. From what? I didn't know. Before I could understand more, the vortex hurled me into a pitch-black void. I heard screams, dozens of voices crying out in agony, calling for mercy. The only thing I could make out was one chilling phrase. Mercy, from Raggy. And then, nothing made sense. Since I was born, my life's been a storm of problems. All thanks to my father, Abdullah El-Ghazai. He married my mother, only to kick her out into the streets 2 days later, for the sake of his second wife. A month after the divorce, Mom realized she was pregnant with me. When she went to his house and told him, he laughed in her face and slammed the door. He told her, "That kid isn't mine. Try that story on someone else." She raised me alone. 2 years after I was born, a local lawyer, Uncle Shaker, filed a lawsuit against Abdullah. A powerful businessman like him hated scandal. So he settled. Paid a few coins a month, barely enough to feed a chicken. In return, he added my name to his, but made Mom promise she'd never show up at his door again. Years passed. Mom died while I was in college, tourism and hotels, my dream major since high school. My ultimate dream? To open a restaurant. To hear people call me chef, like in the movies. And yeah, that dream came true. But in a terrifying way I never saw coming. The restaurant I opened? Let's just say it's not your typical place. It's far from Egypt, and based on a true story that happened outside the country. But I can't say where, for obvious reasons. Before I continue, happy Eid al-Adha to everyone. May these blessed days bring peace, blessings, and acceptance of our good deeds. Now, back to the story. It was written by Andrew Sharif, who's currently serving in the military. God bring him and every soldier home safely. The story's been around for a while, but for some reason, it was never told until now. So let's dive into it. Let's talk about this restaurant. And what's up with the strange title, Zamala Restaurant? Underscore 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 underscore. After I graduated, I kept working at Pizza Sultan, a well-known joint in our neighborhood. Truth is, I was the one making the dough every day. But the real magic? That belonged to the owner, Master Sultan. A good man, truly. Helped me through everything after my mother died. Treated me like one of his own. Still, my restaurant dream never left me. And one day, my best friend Rauf brought it up. We'd been working together in the same shop, and during a slow shift, He lit a cigarette and said, "Man, isn't God gonna free us from this stress someday?" "Bro, come on," I said. "The boss treats us well. Don't call this a burden." I know. But don't you still dream of having a place of your own? A restaurant? One with your name on it? I laughed. "If I ever open that dream restaurant, you're my head chef, Raouf. People will say, Chef Raouf is in, and Chef Raouf is out." The thought made me smile. But just as quickly, I felt a strange chill in my chest. Like something touched me. "What's wrong?" Raouf asked. "You look like you saw a ghost." "It's not that," I lied. "Just something with Fatum. My dad's been giving her a hard time, and she's ignoring me." "She's right to," he snapped. "You keep checking out every girl in the neighborhood. Would you want anyone doing that to your sister or your mom?" "Fair point," I said. "Forget it. I'm not going to try making it up to her this time." "Well," he grinned, "how about I give you a better idea?" "Spit it out, man. Just don't drag me into one of your crazy schemes." "Call your dad," he said suddenly. "Ask him for some money. Open your restaurant. Live the dream." I went silent. "You forget I'm an orphan?" I said. "My mom's gone. And my so-called dad? Abdullah El-Ghazali? He died to me before I was even born." Right then, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Wiping my hands, I answered. "Hello? Is this Mr. Abdul Rahman Abdilal Abdul Hamid? I'm the lawyer of Mr. Abdullah El-Ghazali, your father." Whoa, what kind of name is that? Is that you or your whole family tree? And don't call him my father. I don't know the guy. "Well, now you will," he said calmly. "Because he just passed away. May he rest in peace." "So?" I replied. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because," he continued, "he left you a large inheritance. We're gathering tomorrow at 8 a.m. to divide the estate. I've sent you the address via text. Don't be late." And with that, he hung up. I stood there, stunned. Why would Abdullah El-Ghazali leave me anything? What kind of twisted joke was this? Raouf noticed my expression. "What's wrong, man? You look like you saw something." I told him about the call. He nearly choked on his cigarette. "You're joking, right? Bro, that's fate knocking on your door. Inheritance? From him? We're going. I don't know. Something about this feels off. Too bad, I'm coming with you. This could change your life." After work, I went home. My thoughts were spinning in every direction. That night, I had the same dream again. I was in a place filled with clutter. In the middle of the mess was something glowing. As I moved closer, I froze in place. A vortex pulled me in again. Inside, I saw the same man, desperate, terrified, begging for help, begging me to set him free from something I still didn't understand. And then the vortex pulled me into a dark place. and inside I could hear many people screaming and crying for help. The only phrase I could make out clearly was, "Mercy," from Raggy. And beyond that, I understood nothing because I suddenly woke up to a phone call from the lawyer confirming the meeting time. At 7 p.m., Rauf and I met up and took the first transport to the place. Since it was far, we arrived about half an hour late. When we got there, everyone was already sitting and waiting. The lawyer, Shahenda, Abdullah's wife, and also Hina and Salah, his kids. They all looked annoyed by my presence. As soon as I walked in, no one even wanted to look at me, especially Shahenda, who immediately snapped, "Everything about your family, including your timing, is terrible." I don't understand how Abdullah lowered himself to marry someone like Kothar. He's always been a gambler and a scoundrel, and I'm the one who cleans up his mess. When she started dragging my mother's reputation into it, I lost my temper. I told her, "Listen, I don't want to be here or even look at any of you. But dragging my mother's name through the mud is where I draw the line." I tried to stay calm, but my head was spinning. Salah, her son, didn't like what I said and came close, clearly angry and threatening. "Show some respect, Shahenda. We're locals too, we know how to take care of our own." I warned him, "Better watch yourself, or I might have to teach you a lesson." The lawyer interrupted, trying to calm things down, saying, "Please calm down, everyone. Let's keep this civil. We're here to settle things fairly." He continued, "Now, Abdullah, may you rest in peace, owned many properties. He didn't want any conflict among heirs, so he wrote everything down clearly, to be distributed to those who deserve it." When the lawyer said that, Salah cut in. "Well, obviously, Dad did nothing wrong. He left things to the right people, those I don't even know why they're here." Rauf couldn't hold the humiliation and stood up, saying, "Listen, I'm not gonna take this. Get yourself together, I can't stand your face since morning. You look like SpongeBob's ugly cousin." I was about to jump in when the lawyer calmed the room again, asking everyone to take 5 minutes and reminded them all had a right to their share. He said, starting with Mr. Hassan, who inherited the Zaman restaurant, which Mr. Abdullah bought early in his life but never opened out of respect for Mr. Hassan's business. Also, all the renovations will be on Abdullah's account, under my supervision. The rest will be split equally between Shahenda, Salah, and Hina. This is Abdullah's will. The strange thing was that Shahenda seemed happy and indifferent, but Salah and Hina looked upset, especially because the restaurant was in a historic and important location. They saw me as an intruder who would ruin their inheritance. Rauf, however, was happy, feeling my dream was finally coming true. Everything seemed fine, except me. I had a different feeling, fear, unease. And I was right. Underscore 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 underscore. The restaurant got cleaned up and opened as fast as I could, with a team of skilled chefs headed by Rauf, as I promised. But from the first day, I noticed something very strange happening in the dining hall. People walking out without finishing their food, some screaming and causing a commotion. Half an hour after opening, all the customers started screaming at once. When I ran to check, no one answered me, most were running outside. I suspected bad food quality or pests, but the restaurant was clean, and I trusted the quality of our dishes. After the last customers left, I asked them why they ran away. Answers varied. Some said plates moved by themselves. Others said they heard people screaming and calling for help. Once they realized no one was playing a prank, they fled without paying. Rauf ran out after them yelling, "Money, guys. Don't leave without paying." But to me, it was more than just money. I suspected Shahenda and her kids were behind this, to sabotage the restaurant. Rauf agreed. "What are we going to do about this story, Hassan?" "We're going to get our rights, of course, but how?" Before I could finish, Rauf froze and stared behind me, terrified. He dropped a big cooking pot on the floor. When it broke open, the food inside was rotten and moldy, even though it had been freshly cooked just an hour ago. Rauf whispered, "I'm telling you, Hassan, something's wrong here. I saw someone running after you, trying to hit you." I said, "Rauf, are you messing with me too? We don't need this." "No, seriously. Let's get out of here. I'm not feeling good, and this restaurant is my dream too. I don't want anyone hating me or taking it away from me." Before I could respond, I saw the same vortex from my dream, this time behind Rauf. From the vortex, I heard many voices screaming, people begging me to free their souls. Remembering what happened in the dream, I panicked and ran. Rauf followed, terrified. Outside, he asked, "What did you see?" I started explaining about the vortex when suddenly a man sitting at the coffee shop nearby interrupted us. "We thought this story was over. The place is cursed." I approached him, still breathing hard. "What's wrong with this place, sir? Don't you know what's happening inside the restaurant?" "No, I just inherited it a few days ago. Today is my first day here." The man looked at me seriously and said, "You don't look like Abdullah El-Ghazali's son, but I'll tell you what's going on. This place is cursed, only those who have lived it know, and those who lived it have no chance of escape." He continued, 40 years ago, this restaurant was a ruin. A man bought it, named it as it is now. People loved the place and the food until one night. A night only God knows about, after it reopened. Everyone heard a loud scream that made people run to see what was happening. No one was found. The owner's son disappeared without a trace. The owner died from grief, and his wife sold the place to Mr. Abdullah. It opened for 2 days, then closed due to many customer complaints. The man looked at me and said, "The story will repeat itself with you, Hassan. Like every time, the restaurant will close and never open again unless disaster strikes." Rauf overheard and whispered, trembling, "Your father wants to trap us, Hassan. He wasn't enough trouble when alive, now he wants to make it worse." I cut him off. "What does that matter? What did your father ever do? You're getting involved in things that don't concern you." "I am Abdullah El-Ghazali's son," Rauf said firmly. "But I don't resemble this family, and I don't care. Rest in peace to him. Let's move on." I couldn't wait anymore. I locked the whole place up and went home. All I could think about was that I wouldn't give up easily. There had to be a way out of this nightmare. But what was it? Underscore 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 underscore. That night, I fell into a deep sleep. When I woke up, I was in the cluttered place again, trapped in the same nightmare. But this time, the vortex transformed into a strange creature, wearing a translucent cloak that showed everything around it. It said, "It's better if you join us, Hassan, because if you free them, I will follow you and never leave you alone." Knowing I was dreaming, I shut my eyes tight, hoping to wake up. But I couldn't move from where I was. I was still trapped in the dream when the creature appeared again, this time taking the shape of a whirlpool. Before it could pull me in, I heard screams and cries for help echoing over and over. But just like before, the whirlpool sucked me in. I woke up on the bed, drenched in sweat, as if I'd just been through a nightmare. I got up, took a shower, and changed my clothes. Then I called Raouf, hoping he'd come back with me to the restaurant so I could finally understand what was going on. After some convincing, he agreed. We met up and headed there. As soon as we arrived, I told him we'd search every corner inside the restaurant. Maybe we'd find something. We opened the door and stepped inside. Everything looked normal, except, of course, the food was all spoiled, like it had been sitting there for months. I searched everywhere but found nothing. Then Raouf called me from a distance. When I went over, he showed me an old door leading down to the basement. At first, he was too scared to open it or go down. So I took the initiative. The door was heavy and rusty, but after pushing it a few times, it finally gave way. I turned on my phone's flashlight and went down. The first thing that struck me was how much the place looked exactly like the one in my dream, if it wasn't the exact same place. It was obvious no one had touched the place for a long time, maybe no one even knew it existed. But how had I dreamed about it without ever seeing it before? I had no answer. As I stood there thinking, I remembered the light I'd seen in the dream. I headed to that spot and found many boxes scattered on the floor. Among them were 2 books. One had a black leather cover, and the other was covered with strange drawings. Raouf grabbed the one with the drawings, and I opened the black leather book. It turned out to be a diary belonging to a man named Yusuf Ghali. The diary began like this. Diary number 5. Before finishing my 4th diary, I started this one because what I'm about to write, I still can't believe. It started with his work at the restaurant. That day hadn't been good. Chef Sami, the owner, asked him to clean the basement alone, something they did monthly. This time, it was his turn. Since it wasn't his first time, he followed his usual routine. But while cleaning, he noticed an old box he'd always seen but never opened. The lock was broken, someone had accidentally damaged it and left it that way. Out of curiosity, he opened the box and found only an old book with strange drawings inside. When he opened the book, the drawings were even stranger. Every 2 pages had a weird title. Half the page was written in Arabic, and the other half in a language he'd never seen before. What was even stranger was that the opposite page had the same text, but written backwards. Not knowing how to read it, he tried to decipher one page titled Raj, but the words repeated so much it bored him. He closed the book and put it back in the box. While cleaning, he suddenly felt suffocated, as if something was watching him. This wasn't just a feeling. Suddenly, a whirlpool formed right in front of him. Inside it stood a transparent figure with glowing red eyes, like a ghost. On its head was a huge, terrifying royal crown. It scared him so much he lost control and screamed, but his voice was muffled, no one could hear him. Then the creature spoke in a deep voice, "I feel your body. Your choice of me is the greatest choice. But I won't take you alone. I need you with them." He whispered back, "I seek refuge in God from Satan." "Where am I? Who are you? What is happening here?" The creature said, "You'll understand everything in time." Then the whirlpool sucked him in. He fainted until his coworker Saber woke him, saying, "Come on, Yusuf. Chef Sammy would have fired you if he saw you sleeping like this." He woke up on the floor with the book in his hands, even though he was sure he had put it back. What was stranger was when he told Saber to wait while he returned the book. Saber looked shocked. "What book?" "You're losing it, Yusuf. There's no book in your hands. Are you hearing voices?" To avoid looking crazy, he took a deep breath and went upstairs. Everyone was there, fixing the kitchen before they left. I helped quietly and left. I took the book home, desperate to understand what was happening. But the writing was in a strange language that sent chills down my spine and sparked an instinctive fear. The only thing I could do was ask Chef Sammy for help. Surely, there was an explanation. Since the book belonged to his restaurant, he must know something. But if he found out I'd searched the basement without permission, I didn't know how he'd react. I thought of another plan. Misbah, the chef's son, was close to us and might believe me if I told him everything. After some thought, I hid the book and rested a bit before going to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of a rooster at 5 a.m. It was still early, but I was hungry, so I ate breakfast and watched some TV. Then I went to the bathroom for a shower, but as soon as I entered, the whole room was filled with strange steam, as if someone had just showered. Even though I was alone in the apartment, the walls were wet, and the air was thick and heavy. When I got close to the mirror, it was covered with heavy steam, so thick I couldn't even see my own face clearly. My heart started pounding fast because the steam felt unnatural. I wiped the mirror with my hand to see better. Then I saw a strange reflection, a shadowy figure standing behind me. Its features weren't clear, but it was obvious it was watching me. At that moment, intense fear flooded me. I quickly turned around, sure I wouldn't find anything, like in the movies. But it was the same creature with the red eyes. It said, "I'm waiting for you, Yusuf. Tonight, you'll be with Raj in the fog." I told it, I didn't do anything to deserve this. If I took anything that belonged to you, I don't want it and can return it. But you're the one who gave me the book again. I didn't want this. You chose and opened it. Then I fainted as the whirlpool entered me, and I felt an intense burning inside, like I was on fire. When I woke up again, I saw I was late for work. I didn't have time to write in my diary like every morning, so I grabbed the new diary and the book and rushed out. I felt so weak on the street, dizzy and staggering from side to side that people stared at me mockingly. Suddenly, I fell to the ground. I heard the creature whisper my name, and I couldn't stand its voice. I started screaming loudly. The mocking looks from the people turned into fearful ones, but no one helped me, except an old man who reached out his hand and asked if I was okay. As I was about to answer, his eyes turned red, and he said, "I'm with you, Yusef, and I'll stay with you forever." Terrified, I pushed myself up and ran to the restaurant, staggering so badly that the looks from people never left me for a moment. But what mattered most was Misbah. As soon as I got there, I was about to tell him everything, but he got angry and yelled, "How could you be this late? And what's with that messy look? You're ruining the restaurant's reputation. Don't talk back, just clean yourself up and get ready. You're suspended for 2 days, so this won't happen again." I tried to say something to him again, but he didn't hear me. The way he treated me made me just leave, feeling upset and angry. At that point, the only option left was to handle the whole mess myself. The diary ended there, but honestly, I still didn't understand what happened afterward to bring the restaurant to that state. Rauf didn't wait and said, "Listen, Uncle Hassan, I think that's enough. You've seen what happened, and this place is definitely possessed. That old man outside wasn't lying." I said, "Look, Rauf, this restaurant is mine and under my name. I'm not going to abandon it just because of some nonsense." He snapped back, "Nonsense? Hassan, you haven't seen half of it yet. And you're calling it nonsense? You're Raj, the one haunting you, he's real. I had the same nightmare, saw exactly what you read. That's what scares me." I said, "Are you serious? Do you even understand what that means? It means you're possessed. Maybe Abdullah El-Ghazawi and his wife, Al-Akraba, are the ones who possessed you and gave you the restaurant just to get rid of you." Rauf replied, "That's enough talk. I've seen what's going on. Now show me the book you have, maybe we can figure something out." I grabbed the book from him and opened it. Just like the diary said, it was written in Arabic and some strange language. Every page had a matching page opposite it, but the text was reversed. While flipping, I found the page titled Raj. When I tried to read the reverse text, which was really hard to make out, the whole place started shaking. Suddenly, Rauf fell to the floor. I heard a whisper in my ear telling me to keep reading. But keep reading what? I was already decided to run. Before I could escape, a man stood in front of me, a normal-looking man wearing an old, white apron, his face full of sadness and fear. We stood in silence for a few moments until he said, "Please, keep reading. The solution is to banish him from the place, and then we all get to go back." I asked, "Who are you? How did you just show up like this?" He said, "I'm Yusef, Hassan. I'm the same Yusef whose diary you read. I didn't have time to write the rest, but I need you to get the full message. You must read the next page to save us all. And I promise, if you do, nothing will harm you." I was terrified by everything I'd seen and heard. Then they vanished. I told him I'd explain what happened next, but only if he read what was written in front of him. I said, "Okay, I'll try to understand first, then I'll read it. Tell me what to do, Hassan." After I started work, during my break, I wrote everything down in my diary. Later, I went down to the basement to return the book to its place. I was about to put it back in the box when I saw Raj standing in front of me. This time, he looked furious and clearly up to no good. He ordered me to go upstairs and recite the spell again. Then he added one sentence that wasn't in the book. I refused at first, but immediately I felt a fire burning inside me. I couldn't hold the pen for more than a minute. I told him I would do whatever he wanted if he'd just leave me alone. Strangely, he refused and said it was too late. I had to do what he asked anyway, but this time, it was for my life. I wish I hadn't listened, because what happened after was terrifying and has haunted me ever since. We are trapped in a foggy prison. What happened? I asked. Raj disappeared. I went upstairs to the kitchen. As soon as I started reciting the words from the book, everyone suddenly tried to stop me. I felt strangled in a strange way, but despite their efforts, I kept going. When I said the sentence Raj told me to say, he appeared as a whirlpool and sucked us all inside. Since then, we've been stuck in a dark place with no light. Every day we grow weaker because the book has many copies. After some thought, we figured out the solution. You have to undo the spell by reversing it on the opposite page. Now I'm asking you to help us free our souls. This place is terrifying, and the feeling of fear never leaves us. It feels like we just arrived here a day or two ago. What we're in is worse than hell, if we're not already there. How do you know the solution is in the next page? And why are you so sure you can trust it? Because Raj appears to you, scared, whenever you read just 2 words from the reverse page, and he disappears angrily from this place. We're begging you to read the page and help us. I didn't know if what I was about to do was right or wrong, but I made my decision. I was going to read that page. Before I did, Rauf asked, "Who are you talking to, Hassan? Are you crazy? Please, reassure me. I don't understand anything anymore. I feel like I'm talking to myself." Suddenly, Yusuf disappeared from in front of me, and Raj appeared instead. Raj said, "You won't be able to save them, Hassan. And if you try, I won't let you go. I'll be right behind you." Raj is a loyal servant of the devil. He never loses. At that moment, I had no choice but to read the page. I started slowly because the words were strange. While speaking, I felt my tongue getting heavy, but I kept going. The place began shaking. Raj's anger was clear. All the restaurant windows shattered at once. Suddenly, I felt liquid running from my nose. Later I learned it was blood from the stress. I collapsed to the ground and closed my eyes. Rauf stayed up and kept yelling at me, scared and panicked from what he'd seen. "What did he see?" I asked. Rauf saw many skeletons piled together. Their clothes looked like old kitchen uniforms, the kind Yusuf wore the last time he appeared. Does that mean I freed their souls? I wondered. What about the skeletons? Where do we take them? Before I could answer, we heard a loud noise upstairs. The neighbors must have heard the smashing and broken to check on us. They were shocked by what they saw. Among them was the man who told us the story before, the one who, when he saw what was there, slapped his forehead and said, "There's no power but God." The skeletons disappeared and reappeared repeatedly. The police were called. They investigated, but after spending 2 nights in custody, we were released because there was no evidence. Those bodies had disappeared long before Rauf or I were even born. All of this had nothing to do with us. After a while, the restaurant reopened. Since then, it's been running constantly, scarily so. People come every day. Some just want to experience the place and see what the fuss is about. Others come simply to eat a good meal. As for me, I stayed the owner. But I never forgot the lesson Raj taught me. This place isn't just a restaurant. It's a gateway, a portal between our world and another we still don't understand. and that gate is now closed. I don't think anyone will be able to open it again. Because if anyone tries, they'll discover that every door opened comes at the cost of their own soul. As the chilling truth about the restaurant's dark gateway settled in my mind, I realized this was only the beginning. What I had just uncovered was part of a much larger, more sinister web, one that stretched beyond this place and touched the lives of many others in ways I couldn't yet understand. Little did I know, the next chapter of Nightmare was already unfolding somewhere else, where a new set of mysteries and horrors awaited to be revealed. Welcome to Yo Story Number 2. I used to hate the graveyard shift at the Golden Spoon. Hated the silence, the clatter of my own movements echoing in the vast, empty restaurant. Hated the lingering smell of expensive food on my clothes, even after the last of the high rollers had stumbled out into the blinding Las Vegas neon. Tonight, though, I realized that silence was a mercy. My name's Sophia. And don't tell my family, but I'm no boutique hotel manager. I'm a cleaner, a scullery maid, whatever you want to call it, at one of the Strip's most exclusive dining establishments. The kind of place where you could drop a year's salary on a single meal. Tonight, I was just dropping the last sauté pan into the industrial sink. The metallic clang was sharp, lonely, swallowed by the cavernous kitchen. That's when it hit me. Not a sound, not a sight, but a cold. A chill that didn't just touch my skin, it burrowed deep into my bones, a slow, icy tendril uncurling in my chest. It wasn't the AC, the air felt ancient, stagnant, like it had been trapped for decades. I shivered, pulling my thin work jacket tighter, but it did nothing. Then came the whisper. Not a voice, not exactly. More like the dry rustle of forgotten silk or fallen leaves skittering across a long abandoned street. It wasn't in my ears, it was in my head, coiling around my thoughts, making my heart hammer against my ribs like a trapped bird. I spun around, water dripping from my hands, expecting to see, what? A draft? A colleague? But there was nothing. Just the gleam of stainless steel, the stacked plates, the silent, hulking ovens. My breath hitched. The air was thick, heavy, like trying to breathe underwater. A faint clatter came from the dining room. A fork, perhaps? No. It was followed by a rhythmic scraping. Like a chair being dragged slowly, deliberately, across the polished marble floor. My throat was suddenly dry. Hello? My voice was a pathetic squeak, swallowed by the oppressive silence. No answer. Just the scraping, then a faint, discordant melody. A waltz. Played on an old, out-of-tune piano. Impossible. We don't have a piano. Just the terrible pre-programmed jazz that filters through the ceiling. The kind that lulls you into a stupor. This was not lulling. This was chilling. Fear, cold and sharp, began to prickle my skin. My hands, still slick with water, found the heaviest sauté pan. Its familiar weight was a strange comfort against the rising tide of dread. Is anyone there? I tried again, my voice a little steadier, but still edged with a tremor. The scraping stopped. The phantom waltz faded. Silence. Deeper, heavier than before. It pressed in on me, stealing the air from my lungs. Then, from the dining room, a giggle. Low. Guttural. Utterly, terrifyingly devoid of mirth. It was the sound of something ancient and malicious finding perverse amusement in my growing terror. My legs, suddenly like jelly, barely held me. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to bolt out the service entrance, to never look back. But something held me. A morbid curiosity, a horrifying, almost magnetic pull. I had to see. I had to know what was out there. Slowly, carefully, I pushed the swinging kitchen door open a crack. The dining room was a canvas of sickly yellow, painted by the neon bleeding through the blinds. And in the center of the room, around a table set for a phantom feast, sat figures. Not solid. Not quite. They shimmered, like heat haze off asphalt, their edges indistinct, wavering. 5 of them. A woman in a shimmering gown, her head tilted at an impossible angle, a faint, decaying bouquet clutched in her hand. A man in a sharp, old-fashioned suit, his eyes hollowed pits, staring blankly ahead. Another, younger couple, their faces twisted in silent screams, locked in an eternal, macabre dance that must have been the source of the scraping sound. And then, the child. A little girl, perhaps 6 years old, sitting perfectly still, her small hands resting on the pristine tablecloth. They were all staring. Not at each other. At me. My breath hitched, a desperate gasp for air that refused to come. The faint waltz returned, louder now, mournful and chilling. It seemed to emanate from the woman in the gown, her ethereal form swaying slightly to the rhythm. The little girl at the table slowly lifted her head. Her eyes, or where her eyes should have been, were black voids. A faint, almost imperceptible smile stretched her lips, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too numerous. And then she spoke. Not with a child's voice, but with that same dry, rustling whisper I'd heard in the kitchen. "You're late." The words weren't a question. They were an accusation. And with them, the chill in the room intensified, biting at my exposed skin. The air vibrated with a palpable, sickening malevolence. I stumbled back, hitting the swinging door with a dull thud. My scream was trapped, a raw, desperate knot in my throat. The figures at the table began to move. Not walking, not floating. They simply shifted, their forms blurring, drawing closer. The man in the suit raised a skeletal hand, beckoning. The dancing couple spun faster, their silent screams growing louder in my mind, a frantic, echoing crescendo. The little girl's smile widened, her black eyes fixed on me. The last one, always the last one. Panic, pure and absolute, finally broke through my frozen terror. This wasn't some benign apparition, some wandering spirit. This was something predatory, something that had waited, perhaps for decades, in this opulent tomb. This was a hunger. I dropped the pan, the clang echoing like a gunshot, and spun, scrambling blindly for the staff exit. My fingers fumbled with the cold metal bar, my mind screaming, "Get out! Get out now!" Just as my hand hit the push bar, a sudden, powerful force slammed into my back. Not a physical shove, but a wave of icy despair, of suffocating loneliness. It wrapped around me, pulling me back into the darkness. I cried out, a raw, desperate sound, as I was dragged, inch by terrifying inch, away from the flickering exit sign. I clawed at the doorframe, my nails scraping against the paint, but the invisible current was too strong. The waltz swelled, becoming a roaring cacophony of lost souls, each note a scream of despair. The chilling giggle echoed again, closer now, right beside my ear. "Welcome," the little girl's whisper hissed, her voice a dry, rasping wind, "to the forever feast." My fingers slipped. My vision blurred, the vaguest neon outside twisting into grotesque, monstrous shapes. The last thing I saw before the darkness consumed me was the black, bottomless gaze of the child, its smile widening into a terrifying, triumphant rictus as the heavy kitchen doors swung shut behind me with a soft, final click. The golden spoon remained silent, bathed in the distant glow of the strip, as if nothing had ever disturbed its perfect, eternal night. Inside, the waltz plays on, a new guest added to its macabre, never-ending dance. And I'm still here, waiting for the next one to be late. Miles away, not in the shimmering mirage of Las Vegas, but across an ocean, nestled amidst the cobbled streets of a quiet European capital, a different kind of silence was about to settle. It was a silence broken only by the distant chime of a forgotten cathedral bell and the soft, rhythmic hum of a walk-in freezer in a small, unassuming bistro. A bistro where a young man named Elias was just starting his shift. Welcome to story number 3. The chime of St. Paul's Cathedral had just faded, swallowed by the London mist, when I felt it. Not a chill, not a tremor, but a hollow echo in the air of the Gilded Spoon, a Michelin-starred bastion of British cuisine tucked away in a quiet Mayfair street. It was 3 a.m., and the last of the kitchen staff had finally clocked out, leaving me, Elias, the night cleaner, alone. The air hummed with the ghosts of 1,000 forgotten dinners, the scent of truffle and roasted lamb clinging to the velvet curtains like a memory. I'm Elias. And don't get me wrong, I know this place like the back of my hand. Every creak of the old floorboards, every groan of the ancient plumbing. Usually, the silence out here, in the main dining room, is just that, silence. But tonight, there was a new sound. A faint, almost imperceptible scratching. Like someone trying to jimmy a lock, but muted, distant. I was buffing the gleaming mahogany tables to a mirror-like finish, lost in the rhythmic swipe of my cloth, when it began. The scratching was coming from the private dining alcove, the Elizabethan room, as the staff called it, a small, oak-paneled space reserved for the most discreet and exorbitant clientele. It was a room I usually avoided. It always felt colder, darker, even when the heating was on full blast. But not because of ghosts. Because it held the most expensive stuff, the rare wines, the antique silver service for VIPs. Just the old building settling, I muttered to myself, the words feeling thin and unconvincing even to my own ears. I tried to ignore it, focusing on my work. But the scratching grew bolder, sharper, punctuated now by a soft, insistent tapping. Tap, tap, tap. Like metal against metal. My heart began to thud, a dull, heavy beat against my ribs. I gripped the polished bottle tighter. No one else was here. I knew that for a fact. I'd seen every last chef and waiter out, double-locked the main doors. I tried to rationalize. A late delivery? No one comes this late. A staff member who forgot something. They'd just used their key. My breath hitched as a new sound joined the chorus, a faint, muffled thump. Like something heavy being dragged. I hesitated, rooted to the spot. Every hair on my arm stood on end. My pragmatic mind, usually so good at dismissing the strange, was failing me. The air in the main dining room, previously just cool, now felt tense, pulling at my skin like a shroud. Then, from inside the alcove, a clink. The unmistakable sound of crystal. A wine glass, perhaps, or a decanter. I squeezed my eyes shut, wishing I could disappear. When I opened them, the darkness in the Elizabethan room seemed to have intensified, almost pulsating with a hidden presence. I took a deep, shuddering breath. Hello? My voice was barely a whisper, a stark contrast to the thudding in my chest. No answer. only the unnerving silence, broken by the faint echo of that thump. I knew I should just walk away. Leave. Call my manager in the morning, make up some excuse. But a terrifying, inexplicable pull, a morbid curiosity I couldn't fight, drew me forward. I had to see. I had to know. My job, for all its long hours, was important to me. This place was expensive, full of things worth stealing. Slowly, my legs feeling like lead, I approached the Elizabethan room's heavy oak door. The scratching and tapping had stopped. The thumping was gone. But the oppressive tension remained, a tangible presence. I reached for the handle, my fingers trembling, and pushed the door inward. The room was bathed in a dim, watery light filtering through the high, leaded windows. The heavy oak table, usually pristine, was now covered in what looked like shadows. Deep, moving shadows that danced across the polished wood, obscuring the ornate silver candelabras and the empty crystal glasses. The air within the room was impossibly cold, making my breath plume. And then I saw them. Figures. Not quite clear, obscured by the shifting gloom. There were perhaps 6 or 7 of them, scattered around the table and along the walls. They were moving, quickly, efficiently, stuffing items into large, dark bags. The gleam of a silver serving dish, a flash of a diamond from a display cabinet. A woman in a dark, hooded jacket, her hand reaching for a phantom teacup, her expression hidden by a ski mask. A man in a dark, high-collared jacket, his face obscured, his movements sharp and precise. A gloved hand, small like that of a child, pressed against the oak of the wall, its tiny fingers spread as if studying itself while prying something loose. They were all staring. Not at each other. They were focused on their grim task, methodical, professional. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a break-in. This was an orchestrated hit. These weren't amateurs. I swallowed hard, the sound like sandpaper in my throat. I wanted to scream, but the shock had stolen my voice, replacing it with a painful rasp. Then, a head turned. A faint glint of light caught the eye of the man closest to the door. He froze, and his head slowly, agonizingly, began to turn. One by one, the others shifted, their dark, obscured faces beginning to fix on me. The woman in the hooded jacket, her lips slightly parted in a silent gasp, seemed to whisper, "He saw us." The man in the high collar, his face still obscured, seemed to be urging caution with a silent gesture. And the child's gloved hand, pressed to the wall, slowly, impossibly, began to withdraw. A tiny, almost imperceptible click followed, then another, as a small, antique clock was gently lifted from its perch. A low, guttural whisper rumbled from somewhere deep within the room, directed at me. Just like the others. Always the others. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. A threat. Panic, sharp and visceral, finally cut through the frozen terror that held me. This was wrong. Terribly wrong. I took a stumbling step back, my foot skidding on the polished floor. As I moved, the figures reacted. A crack echoed through the room, a loud, fracturing sound that seemed to emanate from the central table as a crystal vase was roughly shoved into a bag. The figures jolted, a sudden, horrifying spasm passing through their rigid forms. The temperature plummeted further, making my teeth ache. The woman's masked face suddenly contorted, not in surprise, but in fury. Her eyes, dark and piercing, seemed to bore into me, and a low, guttural growl rumbled from somewhere deep within the room. "Get him!" I bolted. I turned and ran, not caring about the polish, not caring about the pristine floor. I ran through the main dining room, past the perfectly set tables, my breath burning in my lungs. I could hear their footsteps behind me, a vast, hungry void rushing closer. I slammed through the kitchen doors, the familiar clatter of pots and pans suddenly a comfort, a sign of the living world. I fumbled for the staff exit, my hands shaking so violently I could barely grasp the push bar. Just as I threw the door open, a sudden, powerful force slammed into me. Not a punch, but a tackle, a heavy body hitting my back. I cried out, a raw, animalistic sound, as I was slammed to the ground, the air knocked from my lungs. A rough hand clamped over my mouth, stifling my cries. Another hand grabbed my arms, twisting them behind my back. I struggled, kicking, thrashing, but they were too strong, too many. I could hear their whispers, harsh and urgent, right beside my ear. "Welcome," a voice hissed, "to the silent treatment." My vision blurred, the mundane, reassuring sights of the kitchen twisting into grotesque, monstrous shapes as I was held down. I felt cold steel against my temple. The heavy kitchen door swung shut behind them with a soft, final click. The gilded spoon remained silent, its elegant facade undisturbed by the unseen violence within. And inside, in the Elizabethan room, the work continued, efficient and brutal, leaving only shadows and the lingering scent of fear. And that's where the story ends, for now. If you felt that chill run down your spine, hit that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the creepiest thing you've ever experienced in a place you thought was safe? Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into the shadows.